Hi there, folks. This is Adam with 8 Badge Gaming coming to you today with a new deck for a new week. And to try something different, today we're actually going to be doing the expanded Lucario deck that the very last Pokemundays, just the past Monday itself there. And I've actually gotten Mike on a call with me now to actually walk through the deck itself there with me. How you doing today, Mike?
Good.
So you put this together as a way to be able to play Lucario in Expanded. I know you had quite a lot of enjoyment with Lucario itself in Standard, and you were looking to see how you could adapt it to Expanded overall, given the things like Focus Sash, for example. So, what inspired you to dig deep into Lucario itself in Expanded?
Well, Zoroark is kind of everywhere. And when you can one-shot it, put a focus sash on so it can't hit you back, and then just kind of ace roll a loop or use your Cyclone Scoop Up to shrug off their damage and just stop their attack, the deck just sort of runs a little dry. So that was kind of the main idea, to just dump on Zoroark a little bit. And it's just a lot of fun to be like, you can't kill me in one hit, but I have Cantankerous Beatdown, so if you try and kill me in 2 hits, I get to kill something for free.
Most definitely. And I know you've done some beatdowns for quite a bit of damage. I know that you've had a couple of strongs plus a choice plus a max damage essentially beatdown going off of Lucario there, and I don't think there's anything in the format that can survive that hit.
Yeah, no, once you get to like 80 damage, you can kill basically everything, regardless of like anything. Just two fightings and 80 damage will kill anything you have to deal with.
So you're not complaining at that point. So I'll go ahead and get the deck up on screen here now, and I'll get you to walk us through some of the card choices. So first off, we have the one of Resource Management Oranguru. Can you explain your choice behind it?
Well, it does a couple important things. You're going to need to potentially recycle things like Cyclone Scoop Up or your strong energies if your opponent is a hammer heavy deck, and put those resources back into your deck for the grindier matchups. Also, it's a free win against Mill. That's, Mill decks, you play your Engar, you just win. But in your mid-rangey type matchups where you're trying to attrition out your opponent by just going Focus Sash, loop my healing, Oranguru just lets you put important resources that you have no other way to get back into your deck.
And have you ever, at least at this point, been able to use the Profound Knowledge attack at any point, or?
I've never really had the chance. 3 attachments is a lot in this deck. You don't often go past 1 or 2. Maybe if I ran into a Hoopa, I could see a need for it, but I think at that point I'd be more inclined to put some strongs on a Riolu and just kind of punch Hoopa. But there's not really an expanded Hoopa, so the Profound Knowledge doesn't have the same use it would have in Standard.
Perfect. Now, next up, we have a one of Buzzball. What's your reasoning behind Buzzball, other than the fact that it's a broken card?
Well, the Buzzwole and the Landorus actually are, it's almost more like a 2 of, just you're splitting up your weakness at a small loss of like 10 health, which is not a huge deal. But basically, it does 2 important things. It fixes some really interesting numbers. Lucario can only really hit 170, maybe 190. Sometimes you got to get up a little higher at the 210. But also the actual act of getting to a position where you can loop Lucario takes a little while. So if you can start off the game and get a Buzzwole into the active, you can start spreading damage across all of their Pokemon, and be high pressure early, so they have to react to the attacker in the active and not focused on your Riolus or your Remoraid.
And it's definitely a worthy resource for that. Next up, we have one of the newer additions to the deck, the Diancie Prism, and I guess the inclusion of this is pretty obvious just for the damage boost.
Yeah, the biggest thing it does for you is you really don't want to put Choice Band on your Lucarios, so you're not pumping any extra damage into GXs and EXs, and with Shaman in the format being 110 health, but 20 resistance means that you only actually hit it for 100. You put a Deancey out, and you can get away with just a regular fighting energy and one-shot those Shaman. It also means that you can get up to Lele damage with just a choice band and a regular energy versus a strong. So it helps. It helps some numbers. Most importantly, it helps the Shaman, but it also can help your Buzzwole early to kind of pressure even heavier on their basics. Things like Malamar, if you hit the Inkay, even if they evolve the next turn, you should be able to take a knockout on it. Strong and a Deancey will kill most basics because that's now 70.
And you're not complaining about taking one-shots right off the bat with just a single energy attachment.
Yeah, if you can get them behind early and then get to the point where you start to pressure them with a focus sash on something in the active that they don't want to two-hit, then they're just so far behind at the very beginning of the game that the extra 20 damage lets you get there more easily than pretty much anything else in that slot, really.
Yeah, and it's definitely a big upgrade over Regirock, where it's no longer 2 prizes. It's a little shitty that you can't kind of get it back with anything, because once it goes to the discard, it just goes direct to the lost zone. But you're essentially getting 2 Regirocks as a single prize card.
Yeah, and a lot of times, if you really want to protect your Deancey, you can just put it on the bench and put a focus sash on it. Nobody wants to two-hit your damage modifier Pokemon.
Yeah.
So you just kind of sit it there, and they hit it and either break your focus sash and it's not dead, or they try and two-hit it and you have a free turn where you don't really care that they just put less than 100 damage on your Deancey.
Yeah, and if they're going all in on a Deancey like that and you just have an Acerola, you're making them waste their entire turn and likely positioning yourself to just smack them back really hard.
Absolutely. Just pick it up, put it back down, put a Riolu or a Buzzwole in the active. You get your 20 damage back with a full health, and they just waste their whole turn. There's not a lot of matches where you need to heavily protect the Deancey, but if you just put a sash on it, it's unless they have a field blower, it's there. They're never killing it.
Yeah, and the last thing they want to do is waste a field blower to be able to take out a Deancey rather than one of your Lucarios.
Exactly.
Perfect. All right, so next up we had the one of Landorus, which you mentioned briefly when we were talking about Buzzwole, that you're just mainly looking to use it for its hammerhead attack and being a little bit of a weakness diversification against Buzzwole.
Yeah, this just says, like, Landorus at the top actually just says Buzzwole, but weak to water and not psychic. That's the whole point of this card, is just Buzzwole. It does the exact same thing. You do 30-30, 30-30, spread your damage, and you're water weak, not psychic weak. So you're not sharing a weakness with Lucario being your main attacker, and that's it. It's just a weakness diversification version of Buzzwole.
Yeah, and sometimes you could just say get a couple strong on this, and a regular energy and Land's Judgment is starting to hit, say, for 120, 140 if you've got a Deancey in play.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a normal plan a lot of the time, but sometimes you start that early pressure and you just don't have anywhere relevant that you want to attach energy, so you put a second one on. Now you've got 2 energy and a focus sash. They can't kill it on the next turn, and you're hitting one-shot numbers pretty quickly with like the 150, strong and a Deancey, that's a 190. You can start to kill a lot of stuff. But really, it's Hammerhead is what you're in there for. You just want to get everything weak enough that Lucario can hit it and take the one-shot.
Excellent. All right, so next up is the mainstay of the deck. It's a 4-3 line of Riolu Lucario. Now, I know that you specifically choose the Detect Riolu over any of the other versions in Standard right now, but you did open yourself up to some more in Expanded. Is Detect still just the best in slot for Riolu?
Yeah, there's no reason to run anything else. You're almost never going to Detect, but once in a while you might just want to. The 10 damage or 20 damage or 30 damage, and then lose your Riolu and your energy from attacking with a different version doesn't really do anything for you. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You want to have the option to have a 50-50 on a prevent damage ability and make them Guzma around your Riolu, just in case you need to stall it out. But it's like Paralyzing Gaze, Zoroark. You only run it because it might be relevant. If you did it once in 100 games, that's more than you would do the attack with the regular Riolu or any other version.
Same kind of thing as, say, Bubble Froakie is just that slight
Yeah.
percentage point that it gives you.
Yeah, you're never going to do it, but sometimes you will.
Excellent. And then it's Lucario GX, which I know is probably one of your not quite favorite, but probably close. I know Zoroark's probably in the lead for your favorite Pokemon coming out recently.
Yeah, I mean, Lucario's a ton of fun. You evolve, does 120. That's just a big hit for one attachment. Then you have, Cyclone Kick, which in this deck, again, you don't really build up to. You're trying to take a hit, cycle it away with a healing, put it back down, and just kind of shrug off the damage by bouncing your Lucario over and over and over and over. But the way, the situation that this puts your opponent in, when you put a Lucario in the active or a strike with a Focus Sash on it, you're sitting there with a Pokemon that has 210 HP, cannot be one-shot because of Focus Sash, but you really, really also don't want to hit it and two-shot it because of Cantanker's Beatdown GX, which is going to kill something. So you're sitting there going, you can't hit me, you can't two-hit me, you can't one-hit me. What are you going to do? And they either have to try and Guzma around it, which means that they're probably taking a one-prize attacker, because most of the time on your bench, it's just a bunch of Riolu and an Octillery. Maybe there's a Buzzwole down there if you were using it early in the game, but most of the time they're just going to go, okay, I can't hit this Lucario, let's just go hit something on the bench. And you just bring it up to the active, or bring something else up. Hopefully you get a couple of Riolus down, and you can still bounce it with something, or just evolve another one. But it's just that pressure point of, you can't one-hit me, and you can't two-hit me. What are you going to do? And that puts your opponents in really awkward positions to try and navigate their turns.
So I guess really the only tech around it is, as I discovered, Turtonator Shell Trap. So do a tiny bit of damage with a trap, basically, on the response.
Yeah, it's not even the first half of Trap that's the problem. It's the back half. Because what you want to do, the whole thing you're trying to do with the deck is go, okay, you hit me. Acerola, put up a Riolu, evolve, hit you with Focus Sash, go. Now I've got another Pokemon that you can't one-hit, and if you two-hit it, I'm going to heal it. But if you hit into the Shell Trap, you immediately break Focus Sash by putting 80 damage on it. So the way Focus Sash works is if it's attached to a fighting Pokemon, that Pokemon would be one shot from full health. Instead, you discard Focus Sash and leave it at 10 health. But once you put those 8 damage counters on it from Shell Trap, you're no longer at full health, and now you can kill that Lucario on the backswing. And in particular, with the fire decks that are running Shell Trap, those numbers are hard to hit to get a one-shot into it, so you can't just go, I'll one-shot you, now you one-shot me, now I'll one-shot you, now you one-shot me, now I one-shot you, and then win the prize race. Because hitting that 170 or 190 or even the 180 requires Strong and Choice Band and Diancie, and you're only running one Choice Band, so that's only going to work once.
Yeah, so it's not exactly the position you want to be in.
Yeah, a little poke damage. I mean, a spread deck would also potentially be bad. Something like Trevenant, like this deck will never beat a Trevenant deck. It'll never happen.
Psychic weakness plus damage spread plus make your day sad.
Yeah, they just spread the damage. They have a one-prize attacker that I can't reach that damage threshold. You lose.
Now, I do know that Trevenant does get a little bit weaker with the upcoming bans to Expanded coming into effect in August, I believe it is. But I know it's still going to be sticking around. It's kind of hard to kill that deck entirely.
Yeah, I mean, the Psychic Lele might be released too, so we'll kind of see what happens with that deck.
Perfect. So, finally, in our GXs, we've got one Tapu Lele. Is there any particular reason it was just the one of rather than upping the count there?
You never, ever, ever want to play it because it has 170 HP. However, sometimes the supporter you drew for turn is Ultra Ball. And you just Ultra Ball for your Lele just to get yourself into a stuck hand. It's
I think we actually...
never want to put this down.
Sorry for a second there, Mike. You actually cut out for a moment. Could I ask you to repeat the last probably 30 seconds?
Oh, sure, yeah. Basically, you never actually want to play the Tapu Lele. That's why there's only one. Similar to Buzz Rock in Standard, you never want to put it down. It's just 170 HP. Belt or Focus Sash doesn't work on it, but it's more valuable to turn your 4 Ultra Balls into a draw supporter than it is to never ever play one.
Yeah, you want to be able to get that chance to get out of a card stuck than rather just be sat there card stuck.
Off of an Ultra Ball, it gives you what you need.
Perfect. So finally, rounding out our Pokemon, we have the 2-2 line of Remoraid Octillery. I assume you're just running 2-2 to make sure you have the consistency of always having an Octillery up each match?
Yeah, you need Octillery. You're almost playing this like a combo, and you really want to, in the mid game, Ace Rolla like 3-4 turns in a row if you can, which means you're cards, and Octillery is the only way to get new cards into your hand. Also, this deck without Octillery would be incredibly weak to a low N in the late game. Again, just because once Lucario is down, if you can't pick him back up, he's just going to hit for 30. Maybe 50 if you've got your Deantio, but either way, it's very anemic numbers. But Octillery gives you that option to go, okay, I get into one, whatever, that's actually 5 cards, draw them up, hopefully find what you need to kind of keep that damage cycle going.
Yeah, and especially once you get in the late game, when your opponent goes N, and it's only so they can go up to, say, 3 cards instead of 1, while you're getting that full hand off an Abyssal hand, basically, you're pretty well off overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's N protection, it's continual draw, and yeah, the 2-2 line just means you can always hit it. Brooklet Hill means that the Remoraid's easy to find. It's just a great draw sport.
Perfect. So now, moving into the trainers, a lot of the cards are pretty straightforward. Obviously, in Expanded, you have access to Versus Seeker to be able to buy back any supporter you've used. So it lets you usually run lower counts of some of the supporters that you have. Most decks are running a 4 of Ultra Ball or some other tutor support of that sort, and a Rescue Strike is a pretty safe bet. Now, give us a little bit more insight with regards to the 1 of Level Ball and the 1 of Scoop Up Cyclone.
Okay, so Level Ball is secretly the best item in this deck. If you look at Karina says search your deck for a fighting Pokemon and an item. So you can, in a lot of situations, turn 1 a Karina, go get Level Ball, and actually you're doing a mini Bridget where you get a fighting Pokemon and you use your Level Ball to go get Remoraid. So you can kind of start off with that. If you have a VS Secret hand, you can do it again to go get your Evolve form and maybe an Ultra Ball or whatever you need. But Level Ball lets you turn Karina into fetch 2 Pokemon. Also, it lets you 1 item go search for your Octillery if you've already got your Remoraid in play. Octillery has 90 HP. Level Ball just says a Pokemon with 90 HP or less. So it's sort of this crazy card that lets you set up your Octillery off of your Karina, which is your biggest consistency card that you have. And it all just kind of makes it work together really well.
Perfect. And with the Scoop Up Cyclone, I'm essentially guessing that this is just an Acerola without actually having to use your supporter for turn.
Yeah, sometimes you don't have access to an Acerola, but you have a Karina, or you really want to be able to get a Pokemon into play. Like maybe you need, like, I've only got my 1 Lucario and I don't have a second Riolu on the bench. So I need to be able to scoop up Cyclone plus put a Riolu down, or you need a Pokemon plus the ability to get something out. And it also turns the first of your 3 Karinas into more Acerolas. So you're kind of running 6 Acerola plus the 2 VS Seekers right up until you actually use the Scoop Up Cyclone.
Perfect. Now, we're running a 3 of Brooklet Hill. I'm guessing you don't want any more or less. 3 is probably the niche number here.
3 is even a little thick. You always want to see the first one, and that's why the number is so high. The first one is so good that it's worth potentially drawing the dead ones. But we're also not running Field Blower because we don't care that much about tools. And against the water decks, when they have rough seas, the extra Brooklet Hills are just Field Blowers for rough seas. Rough seas kind of sucks when you're trying to two-shot and they're making you now have to three-shot, and then you have to work much, much harder on your looping. The Brooklet Hill is sort of a Field Blower in that situation where it's like, goodbye, rough seas.
Yeah, and hitting things like, say, Dimension Valley, say, a Parallel City, things like that. It just works.
The extra numbers are basically Field Blowers for other stadiums, but you don't need one. But if you get one in your opening hand, you're in the middle of a good game. Like, that game will go well for you.
Perfect. Now, moving into our supporters, we've got some pretty standard draw supporters overall: 3 Sycamore, 2 N, and 1 Cynthia. But I note that you're running full straight 3 Acerolas, 3 Guzmas, and 3 Karinas. So the Acerola and Guzma counts particularly are a little high when most decks are just usually looking to recycle them with Versus Seekers.
Yeah, there's the biggest reason for that is I'm not running a Battle Compressor. I'm only running 4 Ultra Balls. So unless I actually use those supporters, there's no way for me to consistently get them in the discard. And Acerola, you need it when you need it. So if you haven't been able to get one into the discard and the card in your hand is VS Seeker instead of a copy of Acerola, you can't bounce your Lucario, and your deck is not doing what you need it to do. Sure, that potentially downs the consistency of VS Seeker being all of the supporters in this deck at the same time, but without a consistent way to get them into the discard, you up the numbers on the very key supporters, which is your Acerola and your Guzma, because you need to be able to target very specifically with the way that you're doing your damage, and Acerola because you really need to be able to, say, fog off the attack if they do try to go for the 2-hit, particularly after you've used Tanker to beat them, because now you're not threatening that you can't 2-hit me anymore.
Perfect. So finally, we get into our tools. Obviously, the 4 of Focus Sash, I know, is one of the key reasons you're even playing the deck. Lucario plus Focus Sash means that they are forced to 2-shot, period, as you've said. And then you're able to just, if you have a second energy, immediately KO literally anything in the format right back. Now, we do also have a 3 of Floatstone and a 1 of Choice Band. Now, I know you said that with Choice Band particularly, the choice there was because there's a lot of stuff that's not EXs and GXs in the format. You don't want to be stuck with a tool that's doing nothing for you. But why so high on the Floatstones, particularly at a 3 count?
You really need the movement. Lucario, once it's in the active, so let's say you set up a situation where you go, they can't really kill me on the backswing, but I want to get my damage in with Lucario. You put it in the active, you put an energy on it, you hit something. But the next turn, if they can't hit you or didn't hit you because of whatever reason, you can't get out of the active. And you're only going to hit for 30 damage. And that is not a good turn. Like, maximum you're going to do 70, which is also not a particularly great turn. So you want to be able to get it out of there. And also, like I said, we're really relying on Guzma to target what we really, really want to kill. So the extra Floatstones are great. Also, if you look at the basics, there's a lot of not amazing starters. Like, you don't want to put a Rangaroo in the active. You don't want to start DNC. You don't want to start Lele. You don't want to start Remoraid. Potentially, you eventually want to move your Buzzwole or your Landorus out of the active after the first 2 attacks. So you really need to have a lot of control of getting something out of the active, potentially without having to use your draw supporter as a Guzma. Because again, you're trying to assemble this combo of evolve into Lucario, put a Focus Sash on it, hit you, you can't kill me. And Floatstone just means you have that movement around your board.
Perfect, and nothing feels worse than someone, say, Guzming up a Landorus that only has 1 energy on it, and you getting stuck with it in the active. So the float stones can definitely help with those high
Yeah.
retreat costs there. And you do have quite a few retreats that are, say, 2 and higher, so you can't even just toss, say, an energy on something that didn't have an energy on it to begin with to get it out of the actives.
Yeah, and even the Diancie, I believe, is 3. So it's not a threat. It's never going to deal damage, and it just kind of sits there. And if you can't get a stone or a Guzma, you're just stuck. Well, it's 2, but either way, it's just kind of stuck. You don't want to put 2 energies on it and make this run away. That's crazy. So that's sort of the high counter. That is, you need the movement to be able to figure out what you want to put in the active. Sometimes it's the Buzzwole, sometimes it's the Lucario, sometimes it's you need to be able to get up and shuffle back in some energies with your Rangaroo. But it's just to make sure you don't get stuck.
Perfect. And then finally rounding off the deck, we've got a 4 of strong and a 5 of basic fighting energy. Do you think 9 is a good total number of energy for the deck?
Yeah, you don't need a lot. Like I said, you never want really to attach more than 2. So you don't really need a high count. You're not playing a max elixir, so you don't need like 14 energy to hit your max elixirs. You're not playing Beast Ring because you only have 1 Buzzwole. So you're basically a 1 energy attacker, but you need to consistently find that 1 energy. And then sometimes you need a second energy. And that's really it. Is you need to find 1 to 2 energy consistently. I've played games where I found 1 fighting energy, and that's the only energy I used for the entire game, and won the game because you just pick up the Lucario and throw it on whatever's attacking next, and then pick that up and just cycle through it.
All right. So that actually finishes up the deck tech itself there today. So thank you again, Mike, for taking the time out of your day today to go through the deck with us, explain some of your choices, etc. I'm hoping I'm actually going to be able to pilot to a successful record. I hopefully won't shame you with the gameplay videos. I hopefully.
I do have a couple of quick tips.
Oh, yes, go right ahead.
The most important thing to learn about the deck is when it's correct to use Landorus or Buzzwole. It's not always correct. Against Zoroark, it's great. Against a lot of decks, it's great. But you want to be careful about using it because it's easily killed on the backswing, giving you up 2 prizes and not putting damage on the Lucario, so it's a Guzma target. Part of the reason why the deck works is because you just have 1 prize on the bench, so if they hit into it, you don't care as much. So that's probably the biggest thing to learn is when is it correct to go in with those early pressure attackers, and when is it a bad idea? And the sort of the second skill is figuring out when it's correct to Cantanker's beatdown versus reset and put more damage on the active. If you can master those 2 things, then pretty much anyone can play this deck successfully. And always get your artillery up.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen, if you don't get an Octillery active, you just kind of generally fall behind. I know you're running a slightly lower draw supporter count with, I think, a total of 6 in the deck, so that Octillery really needs to be there for your consistency on card draw.
Yeah, absolutely. You're only running 6 draw supporters, 2 VS Seekers. Karina does a lot of work at making sure you get your Octillery up. You could start Karina and go get Remoraid off your level ball plus a fighting type, and then go get another fighting type and an Ultra Ball to go get your Octillery up, plus empty your hand to draw a bunch with it. If you're playing against this deck, kill the Octillery. If you can survive the onslaught of Lucario looping and can take a turn to kill the Octillery, because eventually they're going to run out of ways to reset Lucario, and if that happens before you die, you win. It's really the glue is the Octillery. This sort of secret glue that makes the whole thing flow.
So lesson learned, kill the Octillery first.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember when I played against you, I got 2 up because I was so confident I would need that many cards to get through it.
And it ended up piloting you to a win. That extra card advantage just got you deep enough in your deck to make sure you had the cards you needed in that extremely tight game.
So definitely get Octillery up, try and identify the correct situations for Buzzwole to come in, and try to identify when it's correct to Cantankerous versus just picking up your Lucario and resetting. Because once you do that Cantankerous beatdown, you don't have that threat anymore. And a lot of how this deck works is your opponent has to choose between risking the Cantankerous or the Fog, the heal. So once that pressure is only one decision, it makes their life easier.
100%. So thank you again, Mike. We do greatly appreciate your time today. I probably wouldn't have been able to explain the deck nearly so well as you, so I'm glad to have your expertise behind it, as it is your deck straight up.
I have spent a lot of time on it.
I know you've done quite a bit of grinding online, I believe, with different versions of Lucario, trying to find exactly what you wanted to play the most. And I know particularly when you found Landorus was a fun card for you to find, that you immediately looked to actually get a copy into your deck.
Yes. Mixing up your weaknesses is important, for sure.
All right, well, thank you again, Mike. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Us here at 8-Badge Gaming, myself and Mike included, do always greatly appreciate your viewership. I hope you enjoyed the video today. I know it's run a bit longer than our typical deck text because I actually had someone that knew what they were talking about on with me. But we do hope you tune in during the rest of the week for our actual gameplay videos, followed up by our deck review. And this is Adam with 8-Badge Gaming signing off.